Hi, and thank you for joining us here on Dubetandum, a philosophy website. We're aiming to be both a blog and a podcast kind of conglomeration. This is our first episode, so that's why I'm really terrible at this introduction. A little rambly.
Getting it all groundwork set in.
Yeah, basically trying to find my voice. We being Commodore and I, we talked for a while about doing this philosophy project. So I guess I want to provide, along with Commodore, the justifications for what we're aiming to do here. Let me get one thing out of the way. This is not Brandon and Commodore teach philosophy hour. We're not equipped to do that.
Not at all.
Not in the least. No, we're really stupid.
Yeah, we're really dumb.
Yeah. I studied philosophy when I was in college. My degree was in communications theory. That's where most of my reading was formally. But in reality, I used the 2 years I was doing my master's to absorb as much philosophy as possible. I hung out with friends who read and studied philosophy. I went to the library every week and came home with a stack of philosophy books. I fell in love with philosophy during that time, and that was between 2011 and 2014. So when I left college, as a lot of intellectual endeavors are want to do, I kind of found myself drifting from philosophy. It no longer had a direct impact on my life. And by that I mean, when you're in college, I think you'll agree with me on this.
Yeah.
When you're in college, you have a reason to do something.
Yeah, oh my God.
And without a reason to do something, and this is actually a preview at a future episode, the fundamental question, I think, that confronts any conscious entity, whether it's a human being or an alien or an AI or God, if God existed, the fundamental question confronting consciousness is now what? So, what do we do next? And if you don't have a goal, that's a really damn hard question to answer.
It's really easy to get stuck in your, get complacent.
Yeah.
You've got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your life, and that can just eat up all of who you are.
Exactly. And you don't even notice it happening.
Yeah.
You wake up and you're like, better brush my teeth. Well, now I'm at work. Well, now I'm hungry. Now I'm tired. And
yeah.
So the further out from college I was, the more desperate I became to try to cling to part of my identity, which was philosophy. And eventually it hit me that the only way that I'd be able to keep doing philosophy would be if I set myself a task. And it couldn't necessarily just be a personal task. I'm just not strong enough for that. I tried for a little while to say, all right, Brandon, you're going to write yourself an essay. You need to finish reading Kant's Critique of Pure Reason and write an essay on it. And God damn, if Kant's writing isn't worth it. I couldn't do it. But then I thought to myself, well, if I had even an audience, a small audience, if there were even 10 other people that I could share this process with, there'd be a reason to keep doing philosophy. So if I set myself to, as I'm committing to do here and now, you heard it here, I want to do an episode on the phenomenology of consciousness and the existential implications of choice. So those are topics that I really want to talk about, but it's difficult to just sit down on Friday evening after a full week of work and say, okay, I'm going to not play any video games or read any fun science fiction books. I'm going to open up this dusty book from the 1800s that's complicated. I'm going to read that from cover to cover, and then I'm going to write my own treatise on it. That's hard to do. So I figure that if we've got some people that we're sharing this stuff with, then there is a reason to be held accountable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I feel very, very similar on all of that. Like I mean, for instance, I've offered my services because I have very little philosophy background, even compared to you or most anybody. I've got a class or two under my belt that I found really fascinating during college. It's been years, but I'm more of a techie guy, and so assisting in doing this part is me reaching out and going, okay, I could play video games every night for the next 10 years,
preferably even.
yeah, honestly, I really love video games, but I don't know, it's just not enough.
No.
And that mixed with work is just not enough. If I was doing work and this kind of stuff all the time, maybe that would be, but
yeah,
it's not enough.
So, what we're going to do right now is just lay out the purpose of the project. We'll call it that, because it's not just a blog. Yeah, the project. It's not just a blog. It's not just a podcast. Sure as hell isn't going to be any video content for a while.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's possible.
It's possible.
I don't have a good enough camera
it's
at the time.
expensive, yeah. So the way this is going to work is this. Here and now, by making and putting out this first short episode, Commodore and I are entering into a commitment with you, whoever you are that's listening to this. Yeah. I mean, if you don't care, then fuck off. But no, and I should also say right now, we're not committed to not having fun. So I want to talk about swearing a little bit here in a second. But the purpose of this website is going to be for all of us to grow together. You as the listener and Commodore and I as the content creators. We've got some topics that we're going to be researching and exploring. And during these podcast episodes, Commodore and I will come together, and one or the other will pontificate for a few minutes on what it was that they read and what their analysis of it was. At which point in time, the other one will engage in kind of a cross-examination questioning. The topics that we've picked are a pretty wide range. Our first content episode is going to be published sometime shortly after this, and that is going to be on comedy and honesty. Yep. The metaphysical relationship between comedy and honesty. So that's an example. We also want to hear feedback from all of you about any subjects that you want to see analyzed from a philosophical point of view. And I really do think that everything you can think of can be analyzed from a philosophical point of view. It might not be a very worthwhile analysis, but it's possible. So the goal of the website is we're going to put out these podcast episodes. In between each podcast episode, I'm going to try to also put out a written follow-up, either clarifying some things or stating, some further points of consideration, trying to give a list of content that Commodore and I read or perused.
Sweet.
So that's the goal for me, is I want to learn more about philosophy, and even though between Commodore and I'm the more well-versed in it, because I've read it and written some for my own sake for several years now, this is not at all a Sherlock and Holmes kind of scenario.
No.
I want to learn as much as anyone else involved. So, our real goal here is to create a community of philosophical learning. Starting with mine and Commodore's desire to use this as a vehicle to further our own understanding of the world.
Yeah.
You got anything you want to...
Well, I mean, I'm assuming that we're going with this blog and such, and with everything, we're going to be listening for feedback from people, things they may want to may even bring up they want to go over, or questions about things that they may have not fully understood. They'll probably help with the blog side of things. And, when we return back to a video, we might add in questions after, from the last one.
That'd be good. Yeah.
I've seen that a lot on stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some ground rules, just to toss these out there, and we'll go over these. Hopefully, I mean, dear God, I hope that we smooth all this stuff out, because I'm just rambling. But
yeah.
as time goes on, we'll smooth it all out. A few ground rules that we'll reiterate probably with each episode, and certainly when we have guest speakers on. We do aim to seriously tackle philosophical issues, but seriousness is not synonymous with being dull. So we're not opposed to jokes.
No, of course not.
And I'm upfront. I admit I have a foul mouth. I have the mouth of a sailor. My grandmother was a sailor. I inherited it from her. I worked on the river for a very short amount of time.
Hours.
Mere hours, almost. But while I was out there, I think I was on the river for like 2 weeks, but while I was out there, I did earn acknowledgement as the most swearing person on the boat.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You were cut out for it.
I was, that part. I mean, I almost died a bunch of other ways, and I have no upper body strength. So, that's a problem. But
yeah, that could be an issue.
So we're okay with jokes. We're okay with swearing because we're all adults here, and swearing happens. It's just part of the parlance. The goal is, though, serious philosophical content. It's not to be preaching philosophical content. Very rarely, if ever, will Commodore and I come on here and say, well, here's issue XYZ, and here's how you're going to think about it by the end of this episode. It's more meant to be exploratory.
Yeah.
And that ties back in with the name of the website, which I've gone back and forth on talking about this because I know I'm slaughtering the pronunciation, but the name of the website, Dubitandum, comes from a phrase used by Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish philosopher who was kind of the father of existentialism. And the phrase was de omnibus dubitandum est, which essentially means doubt all things. By doubt, we don't really mean an acidic doubt, a doubt that gets you nowhere, except leaves you circling the drain of nihilism. We mean a serious doubt. And by that, I mean we want to approach everything with the presumption being that there's more to it than meets the eye. And there's more to it than what we might even be comfortable with.
Yeah.
And so part of philosophy is engaging in those uncomfortable doubts, grappling with the implications, and coming to a provisional, humble answer on some of those things.
Yeah, I would like to think that both of us are walking into this with the thought that we're open to be wrong. We're open
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, the doubt for me is the sense that I could look at this and think one way, and I'm open to another. I'm willing to put in doubt to say that, like, I may have an opinion, may have this stance that I'm taking, but I could be swayed. Like, I could find out more truth to the situation that I didn't know before. Mm-hmm. So then I'm willing to change the way I look at it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't like doubt, and it occurs to me we should do an entire episode on doubt.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
changing your mind.
Yeah.
I won't go into too much detail right now because I think it'd be better to save for that episode, but I sometimes feel that I'm more comfortable than a lot of people with doubt and things like that because when I was a younger man, I was a conservative Christian Republican preacher. And in the space of 1 year, I went from that to being a liberal progressive atheist.
It's literally the other side of the fence.
Exactly the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
And
since all three fences.
Yeah, all the fences. I occupy Schrodinger's fence. At any given moment, I'm maybe on one or the other side. And now, since that time, my views have kind of, on some things, my views politically have shifted back towards the middle of the road. On some things, I remain pretty progressive. On some things, for a liberal, I'm uncomfortably close to conservative on. Still an atheist, but of course, technically speaking, agnostic, still interested in exploring questions of supernaturalism and things like that. So I'm comfortable with my sense of who I am getting wrecked every few years. And I think that if I could be so bold, I think that that's something more people should be comfortable with. Because it's going to happen to you. If you're paying attention in the world, there will come a moment where reality comes along and just slaps the shit out of whatever it is you think you believe right now.
Yeah.
And so you might as well go ahead and be honest about it and be upfront with being willing to change.
Yeah. Like, personally, from my point of view, I actually, politically, not entirely sure where I stand, to be honest. I've definitely got views that are conservative, definitely got liberal and progressive and whatever else. And, like, I came from a home of a more of an agnostic feel to it, even though my parents would say something different. And I would argue that, since then I went to a Lutheran church and was big into that and everything. And now I'm kind of like in some waters. I'm not really sure where I'm at.
Yeah.
But I think it's fine. I'm not too worried about figuring that out right now. Which some people would say is a terrible idea, but
I mean, maybe.
It depends.
I do think, and this I believe is also a commitment that I want to put out there now. Our project is committed to the idea of free and open exploration of ideas.
Yeah.
That's a principle.
I think that's like practically the foundation.
Exactly.
It's the idea that something is probably, I would argue, correct me if I'm wrong, it's topics that we're going to have topics that are not too far to reach, which other people may not be comfortable with.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And some people don't even want to talk about certain things because of, the fear of argument and whatnot. Or I don't understand it. Personally, I think we should talk about things. And people probably don't talk enough.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that actually a large part of our society's problem right now is because we're not comfortable talking about things. And I think that too often the inability to discuss complicated ideas is passed off under the guise of self-righteousness. So, people say, well, people don't say this, but it functions something like this. I don't know what the hell to say. So I'm going to get mad and tell you that you should shut up.
Wow.
And of course that's not an argument.
No.
And to be honest, I don't care where you're coming from. If you're coming from a progressive, conservative, Democrat, Republican, religious, non-religious, when you reach the point where your argument is shut the hell up, I don't want to talk to you, you've abandoned intellectualism.
Yeah.
To me, that's when you abandon it. You can be an intellectual from just about any background, but as soon as you hit the extremism of identity, where you've defined yourself as XYZ, and so anything that is contra to XYZ is anathema, and that person should shut up, and they shouldn't talk, and you're not going to discuss it, I don't think that that's a respectable position. It's certainly not the righteous position.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't even if you're right, you should be able to accept if you can't if somebody's like pushing against you with their idea and you still feel like they're wrong and you just don't have the information to back it up, that's no reason to get all hostile. You should be able to accept the fact that you just don't know enough. And you should be able to say that. To like, I don't have enough information to support my cause. Maybe we can talk later next week.
Exactly.
It shouldn't. It really shouldn't come down to you just start hollering about how they're wrong because something that doesn't even relate.
Yeah,
that's annoying.
You're not a bad person for admitting ignorance, and I think that that's a noble thing. Kind of goes back to Socrates and the claim that he made, where he basically said, "I alone am wise, because among all men, I alone at least know that I know nothing." So the whole idea of if you don't know, own it, and that is the wiser path than either making stuff up or, even worse, trying to just shut the conversation down because on some fundamental level you're afraid.
Yeah.
Now, I think the other thing I want to stress is that for our project, nothing is sacred. Everything is debatable. Mm-hmm. Everything is discussable.
Yep.
We are committed to pursuing the truth in any and all matters. It doesn't matter if it is comfortable to discuss or if it's contentious. It could be something as benign and kind of abstract as the question, is logic an external reality or an internal feature of human cognition? Or it could be something as hot-blooded and contentious as the proposition not all people are inherently equal. You know, we're not stating a position on these things right now. We're simply trying to acknowledge that everything from the driest academic subject to the most contentious personal subject is up for debate here in the space we have carved out.
Yeah. I think the idea is that we're laying down the information. Some, even with all the information some opinion may show up. Mm-hmm. We're not grabbing to it. We're not like going and, shepherding it or something, or writing it to victory.
Yeah.
Grabbing it up and just going, this is our flag. No, that's not what we're doing here. We're just laying out the groundwork. Like, this is the question.
Yep.
And here's the information.
Yep.
And kind of drawing from that and making, putting our thoughts in.
Of course, we also do reserve the right, and I want to go ahead and lay this down also at the very beginning. We both do reserve the right as the creators of this content. If you come to us with a submission and we think you're out of line, we reserve the right to say no. Because there's a big difference between dedication to free thought and being an idiot. and so if someone comes up to me and says, what we ought to debate? We ought to debate whether or not it's wrong to inflict suffering. Like, that's a hot button issue, but I think that there is reason to debate that.
Yeah.
Prima facie, which is a fun philosophical phrase that, if I'm remembering correctly, just means on the face of things. Prima facie, there is no clear-cut answer to that question. So we do have room to play there. But if someone comes to us and says, I think you all need to do an episode about how the world is flat. Free thought doesn't mean no boundaries at all.
Yeah. It still has to be like, I'm sorry, I would assume me and Brandon here aren't going to support flat Earth theory.
No. Because
it literally, scientifically, is indisputably false.
Exactly.
That shouldn't even be on the table.
No.
Because the Earth isn't a table.
Yeah, well put. Well put.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I did a thing.
So we reserve the right to say, essentially, sorry, but that's a very stupid idea.
Yeah.
We'll probably be more polite the first time we say no.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Especially Commodore. I assume that between the two of us, Commodore is probably the nicer, more polite person.
I hardly cuss. It's only developed in the past couple of years. Yeah. And I generally hold my tongue if I think I'm going to say something mean.
I'm literally swearing the entire time he's talking.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it off recorder.
Yeah, of course. He thought the first episode should be clean because he's not going to be able to hold back later.
Nope, not at all. The first time, we might just say, politely, no, we're not going to accept that submission. If you push the issue, we also reserve the right to make you an example and to discuss how dumb your idea is.
Wow.
And why? Yeah, I know. See, I'm the meaner one. And to discuss how dumb your idea is and why we're not going to take it seriously or take you seriously. And the same thing would occur if someone came in with a crazy idea and said, well, I think you guys should talk about whether or not the Holocaust happened.
Oh, God.
Clearly it did happen.
Yeah.
Number one, we shouldn't even have to state that.
I would argue that's worse than the flat Earth theory.
Yeah, I actually agree.
Yeah.
But someone who comes along and says that, yes, we're going to take you yourself and use you as an example of how not to be. Because I think that people who deny the Holocaust and people who are flat earthers are prime examples of how to fail at being a person. And that's something this is going to be, I think, another episode, is whether or not you can pass judgment on the value of someone else. And spoiler alert, I think you can. And I think that if you're a flat earther, or if you deny the Holocaust happened, or if you're an anti-vaxxer, I'm not saying that you're beyond redemption, because you can always change your mind and change how you are.
Yeah.
But I am saying that as of right now, status quo, you are failing in your function as a person.
I would argue those three categories, from my point of view, the people that I've met or I've seen that have believed any of those things, are also the kind of people that pick and choose what information they choose to believe.
Yeah.
And what information they use. So they kind of are the exact opposite of what this podcast is going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something that, we can discuss it, but I mean, for like a heartbeat, because it's pretty. I mean, the Holocaust happened, and
the Earth is round, and vaccines work.
Yeah,
vaccines work.
Like,
vaccines work. Vaccines work.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, we could even go into stories of primitive people using and developing their own kind of forms of vaccines.
Exactly,
that worked.
Which work.
It worked then. It still works. It's still the same technology, except for we've kind of sophisticated it.
Yeah, it's better. So, with all that kind of put out there, and I hope an idea of what sort of project this is going to be, we'll go ahead and wrap up this first episode. I will write a very short written follow-up to this, just kind of tidying it up, outlining what the goal of the project is, what its scope and the aims of it are. That was a really redundant sentence now that I think about it. So for those of you who listened to all of this, thank you very much.
And I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry too. We're both very sorry.
We're really sorry.
So sorry.
I mean, we roped you in.
Really apologize.
And you even put up with it till this mark.
This is really bad. This is pretty shitty.
20-something minutes.
At any rate, though, thanks for listening. We do hope that you'll become a part of our project. Because that's kind of how we're looking at this. Is it's not us, the content creators, and you, the audience, unless we get an audience that's like hundreds of thousands strong, in which case you all become expendable.
There's too many of you. We can't hear that many voices.
We can't.
I mean, Brandon might on a good day, but that's just too many.
Yeah, it's too many voices for Commodore.
Yeah. You got to be gentle, guys.
5 voice max.
Yeah. Maybe 6 on a. I don't know.
At any rate, though, yeah, it's meant to be more of a community.
Yeah.
We want to learn with you. We want you to learn with us. This is not a professor-student relationship, obviously.
Yeah.
Neither one of us are qualified for that. This isn't even a hobbyist, non-hobbyist relationship. This is a project for everyone who wants to learn more about philosophy, broadly speaking. Really more about intellectualism.
Yeah.
So I thought of some more stuff I could talk about, but I think we'll need a separate episode for questions of arrogance and intellectualism and things like that.
Yeah, those could be their own episodes.
Yeah.
They really are. So
with that being said, I guess that's all for me on this one. Commodore, do you have anything?
I don't think so. I think this sounds like we've got the groundwork laid out. I'm looking forward to chiming in and doing research and trying to be another side to this whole thing. So,
yep. All right. So thank you all very much. Tune in about 2 weeks from now. We're gonna try. Operative word. Try.
Make a good effort.
Yeah, we're gonna give it the old college try. I don't know what that even means.
No, I don't either.
I'm not really sure. We're gonna try to publish a podcast or an audio recording every other week.
He's laying down expectations.
Yes, which we are going to violate. So we're going to try to publish an audio thing every other week, and then the weeks in between will be with the written content.
Okay.
So tune in 2 weeks from now for our episode on comedy and honesty.
Oh, shit.
Until next time, thanks for tuning in, and bye.
Yeah. So long, and goodbye, guys.
See y'all later.
Yeah.